Here an old thatched roof building, huge building. Some cultures, like I think Albania and parts of Romania and elsewhere, still do this. Look at how that door is held together. It was a proud man that could own a building like this and a farm to support it and justify it. A hard-working man who wanted many, many sons. That for hanging Christians on, hanging bales of stuff on. Inside the barn now, the lower floors, looking more like a home than a barn, and maybe it served both purposes. It's quite possible. Indeed it did. Now this may have been something that served the family, or it might have served the family and the help. And exactly fit underneath this beam. And people were shorter in the day, so this made sense. We'll go upstairs. Here's our first half floor. Now we'll go up a full floor, I think. It's underneath here that the stove might have been set up as rooms, so this would have been a house as well as the barn, but it belies the tremendous investment and labor to hew out all of these timbers, get your friends over to help you build this thing, finish it off and make it so it was livable. Not to mention getting those planks. You had to have some bucks to do this, I would imagine. Another similar building. Smaller barn structure, but wonder what the benefit of the high ceiling was. Probably rapid drainage of anything that fell on that was moist. Maybe cool, maybe it vents heat in the summer. But still served as a home, a modest home. Some of the various implements used in this business. Everybody had a knife, as did I when I was a kid. The day he bought this, he must have thought he'd died and gone to heaven for the time and energy it saved. Here, another stove. I don't know quite how that one works. It may be a heat stove. You just start a fire down there and let it cook everything up above. I can't tell for sure. This more of an oven, I guess. This house dates to 1631. Potter's business, I believe. I wonder if those are forms for making stuff. There's a hatter. Never seen that before. But notice how they made those ribbons of material, and perhaps those are for decoration. And over there you can see in the corner a press to give you that rounded look easily. Probably steamed that straw into that, and the same thing with this one over here, but a slightly different design. If you're working in the fields, nothing better. These are probably forms for not only the head part, but also the brims. Not hard to see how this structure was a combination barn and elegant home. Notice the design where those folks are coming out of that doorway. This somewhat over the top entry into the barn. Here wagons could come in, as we can see. But look at the levels as I pan up. First that one, and then higher levels and higher. At different levels, they may have constructed storage for different items, like the hay. It may have been a more specialty workshop, maybe for meats and all that stuff. And I'm just making this up. I don't have a clue. The thing to remember is a man, his wife, his sons, and daughters all lived, played, worked, grew up in this building. Into the house proper. Spacious. Notice the decorations to make it very comfortable, even though it's part of a barn or vice versa. Notice how you get storage off that ceiling. And here, one of these huge ovens. I'll have to find out what those things were and how they worked. Maybe you put your shoes under there to get them to dry out quickly. Here's the kitchen room. A metal stove, as well as this one here. The tall ceilings in these barns may have helped to dissipate the smoke from these ovens also. And maybe even the heat, reducing the danger of igniting those roofs. Go upstairs and see what we can find. Here's a small room, but notice it's got wallpaper, which might have been a real sophistication in this day. And somewhat expensive. Basin in this upstairs room, stove, but could have been for the purpose of heating stones and so forth that you put into your bed to get warm. Whether this operation was originally in this building or not, I have no clue. And that's a pretty sophisticated one-off rig. I need to find out how those things worked. Weathering may reflect that at one time these walls were whitewashed or painted in some fashion. On the attic of the home, not really actually, the floor just below the attic, but a very serviceable room for something. We're in the attic. These are wonderful museums that I always try to visit, because they provide such a novel experience in attempting to understand the past. Such an excellent, picturesque location for this museum and its buildings, each of which seems to be situated as though it might logically have been in the past. Again, this excellent strategy of ramping up to the entrance of the second floor, so it's easier to get your hay and so forth in. Obviously, this primary purpose was storage of huge amounts of hay, I suspect. And maybe even the processing of it. I wonder if they were able to process it as the weather got bad, late fall and winter. Interestingly, here's a balcony that goes all the way around two sides, giving access to individual rooms. And this looks like, it seems to imply it might have been used for living, and maybe it was that or some particular function. I'm guessing that's a bedpan up on top of that wardrobe. But at the end of the day, you had a lovely place to sit out and look at the mountains. Of course, this building wasn't here, but I'm sure in its place it did the same function. Could it be that this had been used for laundry? Water wagon, huh? Indicates that they could maintain 4 cows on their property. They join these timbers. You see how these pegs go through to this side here. A modest little building. This is a shingle building, but what makes them interesting, I think, is how they get the whorls and the designs in there. I'm sure it occurs quite naturally as it goes over the topography of that roof. That structure is interesting. I don't know I've seen anything like that before. Notice there's a big rock on there. Presumably as a weight for something. This is an oven house where bread was once baked. Probably not only for the family, but perhaps neighbors also. I wonder if these boards or something similar to that was a way they attempted to protect the building from turning into kindling. Probably starting to get barned out and housed out now, but now here's a little more primitive cooking space. Probably that right there, that box is a simple stove. Not burning your house down was one of the major issues. But when you look at all the soot-covered wood, you can imagine that these people didn't live long just from emphysema. Not to mention the people upstairs. That set of bins in that box once held. Probably that enclosure there attempted to protect the family from excessive amounts of smoke when they were occupying these here pictured as sleeping rooms. Interesting that they built these intentionally to have the luxury of these little balconies. And notice the turning on that column down there and how this is in fact a column. Whether they could order these pre-made like this to build them into the structure, I don't know. A small cutting board, I assume for, well, it could be for vegetables. A family room. How authentic can you get?